Diablo 2 was one of the first games to popularize hardcore mode in gaming. Hardcore mode in gaming means if you die in the game, you die in real life. Wait, I don't think that's right. Hardcore actually just means if your character dies, they're deleted permanently. Diablo 3 was quite different than Diablo 2 from what I understand. I never played it, but kept the hardcore mode tradition going. This brings us to Diablo 4, the long-awaited follow-up to Diablo 3. There was around 11 years between the release of Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. In that time, a lot changed in the gaming industry. Blizzard had to change their formula up after all those years with masterfully crafted games such as Destiny 1 and 2, The Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, Genshin Impact, and Albion Online. What the fuck is that? Coming out in the time between Diablo 3 and 4. Wait, why were all those MMOs? MMO is simply an acronym for Massive Multiplayer Online Game. The G is silent and invisible. A lot of people know of World of Warcraft, which is by far the most well-known of MMOs, also made by Blizzard, the developers of Diablo 4. Diablo being an MMO doesn't personally bother me all that much. I spent like 1,400 plus hours on Elder Scrolls Online. I do, however, have an issue with Diablo 4 being an MMO when it comes to hardcore mode. At first, I wasn't all that interested. Then I heard if you get level 100 on a hardcore character before September 1st, or are within the first 1,000 people to attain level 100 successfully, Blizzard will put your username on a statue in their office. While this is quite a lame reward for something so time-consuming, I was still very intrigued. So I started on my journey, a journey that ended relatively short on level 21, partially due to me standing in a big explosion, and partially due to a bit of lag. I think it was definitely the lag though, yeah, just blame the lag. But that was only 4.5 hours thrown away, no big deal. Attempt 2, I got to level 40. I was feeling quite confident and was finishing up an area on the map to get an extra potion to use. So I decided to do a stronghold. I didn't have any trouble getting to the boss, but when I got there, the boss and the enemies were standing still. I slowly started to realize my connection to the server was interrupted. I panicked and closed the game, which I will explain later why this was a bad idea. When I logged back in, I got a notification that my character has died. It definitely was more painful than the first one, but I wasn't quite done yet. I had to try at least one more time, which brings us to my third hardcore character. I was determined to really give it one last try, and I was doing great. I got back up to where I was in the campaign and even completed it for the first time on this character. I got the first capstone dungeon complete with relative ease and unlocked World Tier 3. Also, somewhere along the way, I encountered the same connection error that my second character died to, but this time I used an item called the Scroll of Escape, which sends you to the nearest capital safely. I was still seeing my character move while the enemies were frozen, but after a bit the game caught up and thankfully recognized I used the escape scroll and teleported me to a town. So that's pretty cool. Thank you, Blizzard. I was feeling very confident in this character, so much so that I jumped up to World Tier 3, reluctantly, as I feared I would still be one-shot by enemies. Yet, I was actually doing great. My build was solid in both survivability and damage. Eventually, I got to around 53 and wanted to swap builds. So I spent a couple hours working on a build, and a couple more collecting the aspect I required for my build. I had 2 aspects left to go, and on the way to the second to last dungeon, this happened. Yes, my hardcore character I put 42 hours into, dying right before my eyes, as I can only watch, and my inputs are not being read. You might say, oh, you should have used an escape scroll. I am fairly certain that would not have worked, since I was spamming the button for use potion, and it never activated. This time the lag was so severe that none of my inputs were read. I was trying to move, but being snapped back into where I jumped off my horse, trying to use my skills, trying to dodge, use potions, and none of it was working. So I wanted to make this video. 42 hours might not seem like a lot, but every second of those 42 hours I was 100% focused on that character. While 42 hours isn't a whole lot of time in the grand scheme. It's still almost 2 days I put into a character, every second focusing on that character. I wasn't quite attached to the character so much. I was more attached to the feats I accomplished using that character. Beating the game for the first time, not knowing what's coming up, almost dying to Lilith just because I was standing in the AoE that is an instant kill. Doing all those things just to die to a normal enemy is one of the most disappointing feelings I have ever felt. I do not believe Blizzard will change anything about the game's MMO or hardcore aspects, but I find it truly disrespectful and a slap in the face of players to make hardcore locked into their servers and also provide zero compensation for characters that die to something out of their control. I feel like a potential option could be for players to submit a ticket if they die to lag or something out of their control. People who are super into hardcore might say, "But the character is dead! Resurrecting it isn't lore-friendly!" Yes, a game where you kill demonic monstrosities, get impaled repeatedly, and transform into a huge fucking bear would be ruined by almost 2 days real-life time being revived due to a bullshit, laggy mess of a death. I think at least changing the way it is dealt with would be an incredible response to people having their characters obliterated from deaths by lag, power outages, or other things completely out of the player's control. Maybe kicking the character to a town if said character's connection isn't high enough, or maybe just having hardcore as an offline option, like the games preceding Diablo 4. I'm not sure exactly what is possible, because I am not a $64 billion company, cough cough, but I am sure that having hardcore be locked into having good to great internet, and that internet is required to be 100% consistent through likely at least 100 hours of playtime, is absolutely either a really shitty decision with little care for players' time, or just a little bit of an oversight. Overall, I think Diablo 4 is great. Honestly, it's a very fun game. I also think that the whole MMO server-locked hardcore aspect is not quite biting the hand that feeds, but more so gnawing and tearing at the very dedicated pinky that still supports the mouth as it severs said pinky from the metaphorical hand. What I'm saying is Blizzard can suck my dick. Did you like my video is what I was going to say, of course. If so, please feel free to like, share, or spit on it, I don't know, man. I also just made a Patreon. The only tier available is Cool Person at $3 whole, and becoming a patron at the moment just means your name will be in the end of a video. Wow, so cool. I think you can also make that purchase a tax write-off or something, I don't know. Okay, thank you sincerely for watching, and have a good day.